Hi, I'm Jenny Brown. Welcome to MFB News 2023. I hope you are incredibly well, that your new year is getting off to a wonderful start and you had a wonderful Christmas. For us, sadly, our house was full of COVID and flu and all sorts of nasties, so it was a much more subdued break than we would have liked. Still lovely nonetheless, but I hope for those of you, because I understand that there's been so much illness going around this year, for those of you who were poorly, it didn't impact your plans too much and you're fully recovered. Now, looking at what we're going to be covering off today, I'm going to just bring you up to speed on what's been happening in the buy-to-let mortgage market, give you an update on pricing, where we're starting the year. I'm then going to talk to you a bit about house prices, and then lastly, I'm going to share some data that's been released on a survey of landlords talking about really what they're thinking and how they're feeling about being a landlord going into 2023. No update on the getting back of my buy-to-let property. I'm having to evict my tenants at the moment through non-payment of rent. The most recent kind of thing that's happened is we have reserved the Section 21 because the original one that was sent out had the wrong date on it and therefore it's invalid, which was very frustrating. That was the estate agent that did that, I hasten to add, not me. But we've also served a Section 8 as well now, so a proper repossession or eviction order. So I'll keep you posted on that, but so far into this year, no huge amount of news on that just now. Okay, so over the Christmas period, swap rates edged up a bit. So they were sitting at around the 3.7% mark for actually quite a few weeks in the run up to Christmas. Over the festive period, they floated up, and actually we started the new year with swap rates being at over 4%, not a lot over, but just over 4.09, that kind of mark. We have subsequently seen, first day back yesterday, them come back down to just under 4%, but we are starting the new year with swap rates higher than we ended the year. So this is obviously going to have a knock-on impact to lenders' pricing. So lots of people that we've been speaking to are saying, I'm just going to wait until January before I look at my mortgage options. I think rates are going to come down. And then that may well happen. There's some signs that lenders are adjusting rates already, and I'll come on to that in a second. But with the cost of funds being higher than they were pre-Christmas at the moment, that might have a knock-on into how much reduction you're actually going to see in the first few weeks of this year. So we'll keep an eye on swap rates and what's going on there and keep you up to date. However, having said all of that, we have seen a few lenders make changes already. So straight in, enthusiastically, first working day back, we've seen Accord Mortgages reduce some of their fixed rates by up to 28 basis points. We've seen Bank of Ireland reduce some of their rates. Their fixed rates are now starting from 5.09%. And we've also seen Paragon introduce some new products which are lower than their previous set of products. They've now got 5-year fixed rates starting from 5.2. Now, Paragon is a specialist lender, so they will lend to individuals and limited companies. They don't mind how many properties you've got, so whether it's your first buy-to-let or whether you've got 200, that's okay for them. They'll lend on blocks of flats of up to 20 self-contained units, HMOs of up to 20 rooms, and normal properties as well. And they all sit under one pricing bracket. This pricing from 5.2%, so very, very good there. So not a bad start. We're back one working day in. We've already seen some reductions. Hopefully the trend will continue, but like I say, with swap rates where they are, I think any reductions we will see are going to be maybe slightly more subdued than they would have been if swap rates were at 3.7. Now, in terms of where we're starting with pricing into the new year, so looking at sort of very standard transactions, so personal loan borrowing, straightforward properties, variable rates are now starting from 3.59%, 2-year fixes from 4.39%, 5 years from 4.69%, and products with no early repayment charges at all are from 4.61. Limited company and more specialist properties of HMOs and multi-units, variable rates are now from 3.99. We've got 2-year fixes from 4.89, 5-year fixes from 5.09, and rates with no early repayment charges at any time from 5.44. In terms of what people are looking for, I think at the moment there's definitely a trend of borrowers looking for rates which are more flexible or for 2-year lock-ins. And that's because when we look at the prediction of the interest rate curve, over the next 2 years, we're always going to see base rate continue to increase into 2023. It's going to cap out and then start to ease back down again. And the expectation is that fixed rates will move down accordingly. So when we're talking to clients, a lot of them are saying, actually, I don't really want to lock into anything, or I'd like a 2-year fixed rate so I can benefit from the downward turn when that happens, which is really, really viable and understandable kind of requirement. The challenge there is they're making the rental calculation work, which sits on the other side. So I think really the conversation or the message here is very much, if you are in the market for a mortgage, just give us a call and we can just do all the maths for you and tell you what you can and can't have, and run through some options there. House prices now, for those of you who are eagerly watching the market, waiting for things to come down a bit before you start buying in 2023. The average value of a home in the UK declined by 0.1% in December, which is the fourth consecutive month of falls. And this is according to the latest nationwide house price index. So this 0.1% reduction in December followed a 1.4% drop in November. And this has taken the value of the average property in the UK to £262,068. And as a result, the rate of annual growth dropped from 4.4% in November to 2.8% in December. Now, all regions have seen a slowdown in house prices, although this was most pronounced in the southwest. This is according to the nationwide findings, where annual house price growth dropped from 12.5% in the previous quarter to 4.3%. Interestingly, by contrast, East Anglia was the region which performed the strongest over the year, registering growth of 6.6%. Now, Rob Gardner, who is the chief economist at Nationwide, noted that while the conditions in the wider financial markets have settled following the turmoil of the mini-budget, mortgage rates are taking longer to normalise, with activity in the housing market showing, they quoted, few signs of recovery. So Rob Gardner has commented that it'll be hard for the market to regain much momentum in the near term as economic headwinds are strengthening, with real earnings set to fall further and the labour market widely projected to weaken as the economy shrinks. So I think reading between lines, what he's saying is we can continue to see house prices ease off over the coming few months as we go through this more difficult period. Okay, now Aldermore have commissioned some research of landlords, and I just found the findings quite interesting. I always think it's interesting to know what our peers are up to. So of the 500 landlords surveyed, they found that 48% have been unable to expand their portfolio, and 2 in 5 said that they would consider downsizing if market conditions continued. Of those landlords surveyed, 4 in 10 said they were considering growing their portfolio, but going forward they would buy it as a limited company. 2/3 said that if market conditions continued, they would be forced to put up rents by at least 10% next year. And interestingly, we're seeing rental forecasts for 2023, and the numbers are landing at an increase in rents of circa 13%, by the way. Aldermore said that this would add to the financial pressure tenants were facing due to the cost of living crisis. Research figures from Zoopla showed that rent as a proportion of earnings for a single earner has reached 35%, which is the highest level for a decade, and this will continue to worsen if rental growth continued to surpass earnings. However, the report found that some landlords remained optimistic about the sector overall, with 54% optimistic about the future and 66% saying that being a landlord was a good way to make money. Now, I think, interestingly, just looking at some statistics here and the numbers involved. So when we're speaking to clients, there's definitely a theme at the moment where more of our clients are saying, I think I'm going to sell 1 or 2 buy-to-let properties in 2023. I think that some will absolutely do that, that's absolutely fine. But I think actually often what we do find, and I've been mortgages for business for over 15 years, so I have seen various cycles and various turmoil hit the market and watched how landlords react. Often the knee-jerk reaction is to say, do you know what, I think I'm going to duck out of this. But the reality is that actually with house prices weakening and rental yields increasing, actually the return for buy-to-let is actually going to increase going forwards. And when we look at things that are important to landlords, actually a strong yield is one of those key things. So landlords are citing that actually the increased cost of mortgage borrowing is really starting to put them off. But actually then we factor in a potential increase of 13% increase on rent in 2023 in the backdrop of an increase of circa 10 to 15% in 2022. Actually, the increase in mortgage costs are largely covered there. I do think that the landlords who are looking to divest do tend to be those who have properties which they own personally rather than a limited company. Section 24 has really bitten these guys. But actually, most of them are saying, if I do sell them, I'll probably look to reinvest, either looking at more high-yielding assets, HMOs and multi-units, and actually I will be looking at using a limited company going forwards. So I think actually the key message here would be that there is a lot of hype and news in the press with some fairly kind of damning stories. But actually if we kind of go through all the white noise and look at the numbers that underlie things, and actually I would agree with the 54% of landlords who responded to this survey for Aldermore saying they are optimistic about the future. I do think actually there's still a very strong place for buy-to-let in 2023. And that's everything for me this week. So look, I hope that your first week into 2023 is a wonderful one. I'm off to go and grab a lem sip, so I will see you again next week. But in the meantime, if you do have any questions, do give us a call. We're fully back at work, so 0345 345 6788. Or have a look at our website. There's lots of functions on there. There's lots of information, blogs and case studies. But actually one of the things that's really good is there's actually a mortgage calculator, so you can type in the property value, the rent and the amount of money that you'd like to borrow, and it literally calculates which deals you can access based on the calculations the lenders are using, and then shows them to you. So you can do your own digging around there as well. But obviously, we'd love to hear from you, so do pick up the phone as well. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.